Hey there, and welcome to another AIP tutorial. Do you want to know one of the best ways to learn After Effects? I'll give away the secret right here in the beginning of the video. One of the best ways to learn After Effects is to learn After Effects. I know, mind-blowing stuff, right? Well, what do I mean by that? Because that's a little bit trolly, right? Experimentation, really. So what I do from time to time is I'll just randomly have a thought of what if magnifying glass, and then I go into After Effects and I use my knowledge of what I know to see if I can create that specific effect. So here we have this magnifying glass effect here, and you can see it magnifies and it's got a little bit of a distortion to it, and that's cool. But now this is the kind of effect that doesn't make a great tutorial, but however, there are a lot of things that I learned about After Effects just doing this little experiment that can take me further in even more important ways and more deep into the actual mechanics of After Effects. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to go through my thought process on how I got started on this effect, and then we're going to go through all the different things that I learned while trying to execute these effects. So let's get into this now. I just started with bringing in a photo. You could do this with video as well, but I just wanted a still frame just so I can work with these effects. All right, so I want to create a magnifying glass. So my first thought was to create an adjustment layer, and using my knowledge of the program that I already have, I decided maybe we'll try a bulge. Now, this is pretty simple stuff. You can change the size. Let's copy that and paste that. We can change the size. We can move it around. Like, we're getting that magnifying glass look already, right? Sort of. I mean, it's not giving me the magnification that I want. Now, if we wanted more magnification, the only way we can control this is through the bulge height. And as you see, gross. That's not, no. And also, we can only go up to 4 here. Not that it matters. Why would you want to go up that far? Yeah, when you're trying to read fine print or something like that, that's exactly what you want to be looking at right there. All right, so bulge, get it out of here. So then I thought to myself, well, is there an effect that, I don't know, maybe its whole point of existing is for doing magnification? So I just started typing in magnify. Look at that. Boom. There we go. And we got the same deal. We can change the size, but here we can change the magnification. Ooh-wee. All right, cool. But I was looking at this, I'm like, well, it's kind of boring, right? When you move it around, it's literally just magnifying it. What we want to create is something that looks like it's looking through a magnifying glass, and you are going to get some distortion, some warping, if you will, or bulging, if you will. Okay. Well, let's put our bulge back on there. So now I'm left with 2 different effects that need to be perfectly on top of each other and matching. So I'm going to go to the center and just reset it, put that back in the center, and we have the size of 332, and we want to change the horizontal radius and vertical radius to be the same. Bam. Matching. So I also know that I'm going to be playing around with a lot of these settings. So I don't want to go in and, actually I want to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, go that. Copy and paste. There we go. So what I like to do is set up a control layer, a layer where I can just stack effects on top or controls for effects. It's a one-stop shop. But before I do that, I actually want to connect these two to the size of the magnify, just real quick. That's the typical alt-click on the stopwatch, connect the picky whip to the size. Do the same for the vertical. Picky whip to the size. Bam. Now, whenever I change the size on magnify, it changes the size for the bulge. Now, another thing, if I move this to, let's say, this tree right there. Our bulge stayed there. So what we could do is take the bulge center and attach that to the center of the magnify. Boom, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Now everything's linked up. All right, so control layer. Let's go. Let's do it. So we've done this on the channel before, control layers. Normally, I would put this on an adjustment layer, but just to show that you can, I'm going to put this on a null object, but also I'm going to put it on a null object because it's going to create some problems in the future that we're going to have to figure out. Null object. So what is a null object? It appears on your screen as a square. Simple geometry here. But what it actually is a single point. Now this is going to be important Because whereas the null object is literally just a point, a single point, an adjustment layer, which we normally would use, is a actual rectangle. All right, so we want to control some things. For position, what we want to create is a point control. And what we can do is just lock this up, go to our adjustment layer, which we will call Magnify Effects. And our null object, let's just rename that to CTRL little s for controls. All right, so we got our point control. We got our layer effects locked up here. So let's go to our Magnify Effects, hit E to bring up the E effects, and go to our Magnify. Now let's Alt-click on the stopwatch for the center and pick whip it to the point. Now you notice that this point control automatically comes in at 50 and 50. Well, if we set this to 0 and 0. So you know how when we first did this, we could just select our effect and we'd have a center point that we can move. And that would be in the center of our circle of magnification. But if I go to here, select the point control, we don't have that. Oops, I moved the whole entire layer. All right, so let's lock this back up because we're going to need to. Now let's go to our point control and up. Here's the center point for the circle. It's all the way not in the center point. Well, that's annoying, right? So let's talk about coordinates in After Effects. This top left corner is 0, 0. This is 1980, 1080. So our coordinates start from here to here. Now, if we take our point control, set this to 0 and 0, why is this showing up on this point right here? Why is it doing that? Well, like I said, the null object is a single point, not an actual rectangle that takes up our whole composition. So this point control, it's taking its coordinates from the beginning of this layer, which is this point in the center here. Now, if we do the halfway point, 960 by 540, we're back in the center, except our center point is all the way down in this corner. So let's hit P for the mag controls and we'll see our position. If we set the position of our null object to be 0, 0, basically start in this corner, when we go back into our point control, look at that. Our point control is back in the center. Whoops, I have moved this layer. Shite. Reset that transform. There we go. All right, so let's rename our point control here to Position. Now we already hooked up our bold center to the Magnify effect, so we don't need to connect that to the position. So now we want to control the size. So we're going to do that with a slider control. So I'm going to rename this to size. So let's go to our Magnify effects, hit E, open up Magnify, and remember, we already linked the size to the Magnify effect from the bulge. So all we have to do is link the size to our size slider. Uh-oh, it disappeared. No, it didn't. It's just set at 0. What's we gotta do? Look at that. There we go. We're back. All right, so all of this has been pretty standard up until now, except for the null object thing. Now I'm going to set the position back to be 960 and 540, because that is the center point. So now in my thought process, I want to create the frame that goes around the actual glass, because I wanted to create an actual magnifying glass. Now, I am going to only do the frame because I did a handle and all that stuff, and I just couldn't figure out how to attach all the sizes and different things, so that all I needed to do was change one thing and everything would kind of change size accordingly. I couldn't really get that part. Sorry. Anyway, so I'm going to create that. Another little thing about After Effects is you can create masks or shape layers using the same tool. If I make sure that this layer is selected and I double click on the mask tool or the ellipse tool, it's going to create an actual mask. Now it's on a null object, so it's not really going to show anything. So I don't want that. I don't want an actual mask. But if you make sure that no layers are selected and do that, it'll create a shape layer. All right, so if we go down in here, what we can do is take our ellipse path, open that up. Look, we have a size and we have another size up here. Cool. All we have to do, Alt-click on the stopwatch, picky whippy to the size slider. What do we got here? We connected the size of our ellipse to the size of everything else. So, I mean, yeah, it changes size, but it looks like it's about half of our other circle, which it is. It is exactly half. So let's bring our attention down to our bulge effect here, because that's going to tell us what's going on exactly. Maybe not exactly, but it's going to give us a clue. Horizontal radius, vertical radius. People who know about geometry know that a radius is a measurement of a circle from the center outwards to the outer edge. That must mean since our shape layer is half the size, it's doing a different measurement. Now I get why it's doing this, because you can also, it's the same like slider for a rectangle, and you don't measure the radius of a rectangle because that's what? If I double tap U here, it can bring up our size. What this is actually measuring is the diameter, which is from edge to edge, straight across. So the actual width of a circle. So to fix this, all I had to do was multiply this by 2. Also, we need to attach the position so that we can move this thing around, right? All right, so under our ellipse 1, we have size and then we have position. Obviously, let's alt-click, bring that to the point. Now let's get rid of this because that's not working, right? Now let's look at our position. It's set at 0, 0. So this measurement must be going from the center of our layer. It's counting the center as the 0 point rather than all the way up here. Now, that's just one position that we can change. There's also another position here, and that's the same deal. But if we go into the actual transform of the layer, not the contents of the layer, we have a position here. That number matches ours up here. So let's just slap that one on there. There we go. All right, now that is all set up. Now we have 3 different effects and shapes and stuff like that, and they're all attached to each other. Good, this is what we want. All right, one thing, if you notice, as I change the size of everything, there's something kind of not nice happening with the circle, with the shape layer. So as we bring everything down in size, the stroke width, which is at 21 right now, is going to stay the same. And of course, as we scale this up, it's going to look like it's getting smaller. Now we want that to be fixed to a relative size. So if we go into stroke 1, basically anything that has a stopwatch, you can keyframe. Our stroke width has a stopwatch. So let's hook that up to our size. Let's connect that. Right now, our stroke width is at 415. That is ridiculous. So we could just add times 0.1. Look at that. As we make this smaller, that circle, the stroke width gets smaller as well, and it stays relative to the size that we want it. And we can actually just use this number to dial in just how big we want it. Now we can pretty much connect anything we want to control to this mag controls. We can hook up the magnification. We can also hook up the bulge height. So I'm going to add another slider control here. I'm going to call this one bulge height. All right, so I'm going to put that on there. All right, so we're at 0. If we bring this, I barely moved my mouse. What the heck, man? I have no control over this thing. Because when you move the mouse, it only goes in increments of 1. It doesn't do 1.2, 1.3. So we can actually type in 0.7, and that'll give us the number we want. But as soon as we go to use the slider, there's just no control over it, right? So again, like with what we did with the stroke width, we could just multiply that by 0.1. So now whenever we see, let's say, 7, that 7 is actually 0.7. There we go. So now we have some more control. This is basically the video. Like I said, I just want to reiterate, the best way to learn After Effects is literally just experiment. Come up with ideas, ask yourself questions like, how would I create this? And yeah, you can go watch a tutorial on how to do it, but I think you'd learn more when you just get in there, use the knowledge that you already have of the program and see if that works. And if it doesn't, just take a look around at the different effects and stuff like that. Try and figure out what might work. Because when you do that, you'll learn stuff, and then you can take what you learned and apply it. And when you apply it, you've grown. Learn, apply, grow. 3 words this channel has always been about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.